Hello and welcome to this episode of Discuss, Debate and Decide, my weekly conversations to a panel of very informed individuals who are experts on their subjects. The topic for today is Portuguese citizenship, Indian law, and the Goan dilemma. The suspension of the anti-terrorist squad SP Edwin Colaco has opened one of, I would say, Goa's most sensitive and complex issues: Portuguese nationality and Indian citizenship. What is woven into this mix is government service and the historical position of Goans who were born in or descended from the former Portuguese Estrada India. In Edwin Colaco's case, the issue is especially serious because he was not an ordinary citizen in that sense, because he was a police officer serving in the ATS. And the allegation, and if the allegation that he registered his birth and marriage in Portugal, as a part of the process of claiming Portuguese nationality, then the government and the security establishment have every reason to examine this. But the larger Goan issue, one feels, cannot be reduced to only one police officer, because Goans have used the Portuguese nationality route for education, employment, migration, family mobility, access to Europe, whatever. So none of them see themselves as anti-national, and they should not. But there was a discussion around all this for a very, very long time. And there's a book by Miguel Reis. And in that, the noted lawyer and journalist Miguel Reis, he actually argued at that point of time that the former Portuguese possessions in India had a continuing legal relationship with Portugal. Then his book that was translated by Cleto Afonso also says that after Goa became part of India, Goans were deemed as Indian citizens, but not expressly required to renounce the Portuguese citizenship. Now, this historical ambiguity has actually followed Goa for decades. So this panel, I would request this very noted panel, who I'll introduce just now, to look into law, history, misuse, human reality, and so on and so forth. And then added to this mix is a sudden second issue with the Ministry of External Affairs, or the minister rather, saying that the passport is a travel document and not a conclusive proof of citizenship, which raises an even bigger question. If that is not a proof, then what is? And what defines citizenship? We have a very, very eminent panel, as I said. Dr. Radharao Gracias needs no introduction. A very, very noted lawyer, writer, columnist. And then we have our very beloved advocate Aires Rodrigues joining us all the way from London. It's early morning there on a weekend. And thank you, Dr. Rodrigues, for taking this time off and joining us from London. Again, another person who needs no introduction. And even the third guest, Dr. Siddharth Samant. In fact, this is his first time on any of my panel discussions, and I'm really privileged. Thank you. And he's somebody, again, is somebody who's very well known to be an expert on such matters. So we've got a very, very good panel. Let me start with Radharao Gracias first. Radha, before we jump to all this, any conclusion, how do you see the Edwin Colaco case, and look at this in terms of whether this was correct, whether this was incorrect, and whether this has again thrown up the very complex issue once again?
See, Sujoy, what happens now? I have known Edwin for a long time, since much before he became a police officer. He is a resident of Nube, and I have known them well. Now, for any action, it should be shown that he knowingly and consciously registered, or rather transcribed his name in Portugal. I really don't think so. He did it knowing that transcribing his birth in Portugal would invite disqualification from Indian citizenship. Of course, my contention otherwise is even transcribing your birth in London may not invite disqualification. But in this case, I don't really think that Edwin has done something knowingly and consciously. And therefore, when there's no intent, there's no criminality. And for this, there's a reason. This issue has been hanging fire for decades. There's no clarity. I am merely expressing my view. My view is not the law. The law is what is finally decided by the Supreme Court. And all these years now, almost 60, 70 years after liberation, no, there is no finality on whether your continuing registration of uh, what you call transcription of birth in Portugal will invite a disqualification, or it is a violation of the law. There is no set judgment of any court. That is why this confusion is happening. I would therefore urge that the government itself could refer the matter to the Supreme Court and get a confirmed opinion, and then start acting after that. Simply taking ordinary citizens who in good faith transcribe their births in Portugal for the purpose of securing benefits, employment abroad, because our country itself is unable to provide employment. They should not be penalized. That's the way I would look at it.
Right. Advocate Iris, you personally went through this whole process of relinquishing Indian citizenship, acquiring Portuguese citizenship, and then fighting was it Portuguese or British? Portuguese, right? Portuguese citizenship. And then, of course, acquiring a long legal battle to the Supreme Court for your OCI rights, which were initially denied to you. From your experience and also taking some cues from what Radharao just said, where exactly does the legal crossing point come? When does a person stop becoming Indian in law and become foreign in law?
Sujay, my case is unique in a way. In January 2016, I was arguing against a bail application for my client before the Margao court. The accused in that case was an ex-sarpanch or deputy sarpanch of Kolwa. So his bail application was dismissed. My client was happy. And the next morning, that's on a Saturday morning, a FIR is registered at the Old Goa police station by this same accused against me. So the matter then was transferred to the crime branch. And the crime branch went overboard with that FIR. Unbelievably, 3-4 summons a day, every alternate summons. And the case at the crime branch was allotted to an officer against whom I had filed a complaint of disproportionate assets.
Right.
So the crime branch, the full unit of the crime branch went overboard and then spent lakhs of rupees in preparing a charge sheet. They filed the charge sheet against me before the Panjim court.
Right.
The Panjim JMFC, after perusing the charge sheet, refused to take cognizance and return the charge sheet back to the crime branch.
Right.
Now, what the government does, the government then appoints the North Goa and South Goa collectors to investigate and hear cases of complaints about Portuguese nationality. So my complaint was, the complaint against me was referred to the North Goa collector, R. Meneka, who was due for transfer out of Goa. So within a few days, she passes an order that I have ceased to be an Indian. I immediately moved the High Court. The High Court stayed that order, and then the matter went on for about 2 years. Now, as I feel, the law should be just. And I feel that over the last 50 years, Sujay, I have taken up issues in public interest, whether it was the then MGP government, the Congress government, or the BJP government. And this was clearly a witch hunt against me, the way everything happened. But fortunately, the law of the land was protected and the judiciary stepped in, and I got justice. Now, after this, even the battle against the OCI, the High Court felt that I should be given an OCI. Against that, the Goa government went up to the Supreme Court. They lost in the Supreme Court. The matter came back in before the High Court, and my learned colleague, Advocate Samant, will be a witness to this because he was there, present in the courtroom during those proceedings. Whether he was acting as a government advocate or assistant to him, I don't know. But the whole manner in which it is done doesn't. Now, in Edwin Colaco's case, I hope it's not a witch hunt, because the law has to be the same for everybody, and you cannot pick and choose. In my case, it was clearly a pick and choose. Even the Supreme Court, while dismissing the petition of the Goa government, frowned on this, because it is really strange.
What I wanted to ask is, I'm just waiting. Yeah, Dr. Samant is there. Uh, Advocate Samant, you may have heard Iris a little bit, or we
Yes,
lost you
yes,
for a little while, but
yes,
you're aware of the broad contours of the overall
yes,
discussion.
yes.
Now, in this Edwin Colasso case, the central issue is not only Portuguese nationality, but he was also serving as a ATS SP. From the constitutional and the security point of view, should the standard be such that for police officers it should be much stricter? Bureaucrats, public servants, they should be kind of looked at in a different barometer of scrutiny. Okay, and public servants and ordinary citizens can be looked at differently. As Advocate Radharao also said, that you must understand that many people are not necessarily anti-national people. They went there for education. There's a historical context to it. So should there be some kind of a line, or do you think that the law is absolutely supreme and covers everybody else?
No, for the sake of law, it's not that it's a minor violation. The issue goes to the root. The question is, can there be a prescribed guidelines for certain sections of employment, and broadly thinking, according to me, let's say you want to be a member of Legislative Assembly, you want to be a parliament, any house, then can there be, should it be given to anybody, or it should be restricted only to citizens? Now, according to me, by the way, once you get OCI card, you are entitled to do almost everything except buying some agricultural land and voting and contesting
That's right.
elections. So therefore, issue is not that. Question is, can a government employment, and that also a sensitive government employment, like for example, any job in home department or police, cop, or say army personnel, be given to somebody who's not a fundamentally citizen of this country? Now, this is not. Let us go to the each and every aspect of it later. But this is not about. Distrusting a particular person or not. It is about making yourself eligible or ineligible for a particular job, for a voluntary act that you have chosen to do. It is not as if you are a foreign national right from beginning. And now, Indian Citizenship Act, read with Constitution 5 to Section 10, categorically states as to who are the citizens of our country by naturalization, by renunciation, by birth. So many aspects are mentioned there. And then there are ways of giving up your citizenship, or how you lose your citizenship. And one of the ground is that you voluntarily acquire nationality or citizenship of some other country.
That's
Now,
right.
it is true that what Dr. Radha says is absolutely true, and not only as far as this is concerned, that those who have opted Portuguese passport, we don't test their, challenge their intentions or question their intentions. But question is, are you making yourself ineligible? Now, as per that new act of 2010 or 2011, once you register your birth under that, you become a national of that country. Now, once you become a national of the country, then your citizenship of this country stands extinguished ipso facto, because you can't, because our country till date does not recognize dual citizenship. Of course, it's my personal opinion that this is the right time that we start acknowledging dual citizenship. Now, after acknowledging dual citizenship, what rights we give to a particular person? But certainly there is a all progressive nations all over the world have gone in for dual citizenship. And I think as far as country like Portuguese, where we do not have any, we are not at war, it's not an enemy country. So a country like say Portuguese, UK, Switzerland, these are or Singapore, these are not countries which are inimical. So at least make some amendment to the Citizenship Act whereby we allow dual citizenship vis-a-vis few countries which are not inimical to us. And in that situation, what should be the rights of a person to take up an employment of, because that in that case we would be granting them permission to voluntarily acquire citizenship of other nation. But right now what it happens is, of course, this is all inquiries going on whether he has, these are all what is, I mean, nothing is on record. He has not given any, it's just an inquiry which is going on. Nothing has been established or found adverse to it. Suspension is not a statutory punishment. He will have his right to defense. Tomorrow it may come out that he has never acquired any citizenship. That's a different matter. I'm not talking only with respect to this. But
Right.
Broadly speaking, employment of sensitive areas, any government employed, but more so sensitive areas like judges, like say police personnel, like army defense, like let's say any elected representatives like MLA, MP. At this stage, I don't think so, unless it can be it could be legally done, should be
Right.
permitted.
Iris, what Dr. Saman says is extremely interesting because he's raised the dual citizenship issue at a very interesting and appropriate time, because that is a demand not only of Goans but people all over, the people from Gujarat, especially from Punjab and all other places, where
Kerala
this
also.
whole, and Kerala also, where this whole dual citizenship issue is coming up again and again. What is interesting, Dr. Iris, before I go to Radha, is that this dual citizenship, it cannot happen only to Goa, which is clear. But should India now actively pursue this, primarily because the world is changing, it has become smaller. There are people who are actively dividing their time across different countries, families are there. So should we kind of stop and think differently, because we are kind of looking at this whole world as one community concept given by our Vishwaguru as well. So if that is the case, then I think this is something that can be explored. What do you feel?
Yes, of course. I fully agree with what my learned friend Advocate Samant has said, because I've also publicly expressed that it is high time the government of India considers this long pending demand of the expatriates for dual nationality, because the
Right.
world is evolving as a global village, and it is high time. And recently, the government of India, the External Affairs Minister, I think last year, had made a public statement that this issue was under the serious consideration of the central government. And I think high time the government comes to a conclusion and brings this issue to a close by granting dual nationality.
The issue is, Aris, if you see, there was one argument made by the Honorable Miguel Reyes earlier, and as Radha was also saying, that the Goans of the former Portuguese era were not just colonial subjects, but they were Portuguese citizens under Portuguese law. Now, this historical position is very much there. Now, obviously, the issue is the Goans also live under a sovereign nation, and they are governed by national laws also. So, but at the same time, how should this dichotomy be resolved? Because do you feel that there has not been a serious attempt by successive governments, national or state, to explain this position completely to Goans? Because a lot of things have happened on mere assumption and some studied silence on the part of the authorities. Has this confusion added to the chaos that we have right now?
I think, Sujay, the government of India and the government of Portugal are having very close ties. In
That's
fact,
right.
the former Prime Minister of Portugal, who is a Goan, originally a Goan, he was bestowed a OCI card by our Prime Minister of India. So the ties are very close. So I think this whole issue can be put to rest, as I have earlier said, because by the central government agreeing to dual nationality, as also suggested by Advocate Samant, and so that we can move ahead.
Right. Advocate Saman, from the Indian state's point of view, Does this historical argument about the Goans under Portuguese regime at that point of time, does the historical argument have any legal value today, or is the position very simple that once Goa became a part of India and a person voluntarily exercises his right to take Portuguese citizenship, Article 9 of the Citizenship Act completely takes over. So this is the stated position. There should not be any confusion, but Goan should be given this benefit of dual citizenship as other nationals at this point of time, as you have very rightly advocated.
See, I have no dispute about the position of Portuguese Portuguese on this or Portugal on this. They always considered us people who are of Goan ethnicity, who are born prior to 1961 as something called as Estado da India.
That's
So,
right.
and they consider us to be their citizens now. But the option after 1961 is with you. See, this stated position, even now also, if me or my ancestor, like my parents, who make an application and get themselves registered, it's not a very difficult process if you want to get it done. But then
Right.
it is up to you. That choice is up to you. You are free even today to go. That what it means, that window is open for you. I don't think there is any dispute about this proposition of law. If today you want to go and get yourself registered under that act, and tomorrow you want to take Portuguese citizenship and Portuguese passport, it's up to you. And then you get yourself enrolled as an OCI here. But then whatever that is available for OCI benefits you will get. You will continue to get all those. Your properties remain intact here. Only thing is you will not get to vote. You will not get to contest election. In political governance, you will not get to participate. And agricultural property, that's the only thing you are debarred. Of course, as I say, tomorrow when we move on to, or we elevate ourselves to a situation where we consider dual citizenship, even this issue will go. But as the
Right.
law stands today, I don't think so. What the argument that, I mean, the consequences of the argument that they're saying, argument is right.
Okay.
Of course, they consider us to be, and it is their part of it. And the fact that we can go ourselves and register itself is a proof of that. So,
Okay, I'll
but
quickly go to Radha because Radha is having technical issues. I'll come back.
yeah.
Radha,
So,
now let us look at the ground level situation. You are aware, Aires is aware, all three of you are aware that there are so many politicians, senior officials, perhaps even judges, if I'm not completely wrong. All along, many Goan, especially politicians, have exercised that right secretly or otherwise. There are so many people. There are so many people who had. Radha, are you okay?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Radha, you're crystal clear.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
problem.
I'm all right. Yeah.
Got it. So, Radha, the question being that there are so many Goan politicians, and you will be aware of, who've had these kartas at different places. They used to travel with Indian passports and use their citizenship cards to travel all across Europe. There are people who are in the bureaucracy, services, and so on and so forth. Can you throw some light on the matter? That Edwin is not the first one, he may not be the last one. This trend of taking advantage or misusing this facility, quote unquote, has been exercised by even elected representatives in Goa.
Yes, there have been. I mean, there have been complaints against elected representatives like Kaitan Silva, like our former Aldona MLA. Who's that?
Glenn
Last
Ticklow.
term,
Glenn,
Glenn Ticklow. There have been
Glenn.
complaints that they are registered, and in fact, they are registered. There's no dispute. But as I have said, you see, these matters should have reached the final conclusion. Then all of us would know where the law stands. You keep the law in a flux, and people being unaware of what the situation is. Get their births transcribed in Lisbon, and then they are hauled up, and they are hauled up at the whimsy of the government, because they don't like Edwin Colaco, whatever reason may be. So he is being issued a notice. Now, Kashinath Shetty himself said the other day that he has identified some 40-50 people in his complaint. Send notices to all of them. Why pick and choose Edwin? I mean, this is not fair to him, unless he is being picked up for having failed to bend to the dictates of the government on some issue. That's my feeling. But what I want to say, is, Sujoy, when this law of OCI was brought in by the Congress, not by the BJP, all that the BJP has been doing is taking advantage of the OCIs the world over, holding such things as Howdy Modi, going and chatting with all those people, but not giving them anything in return. Now, what I would expect the government to do, they need not bring dual nationality right now. And the Congress had promised when the bill was introduced that they would do it stage by stage. I think the stage has come where the government has to amend the rule and grant voting rights to OCIs as the first step. Don't make them full-fledged citizens. Grant them voting rights. Why I'm saying this is people who are outside with OCI, they are very much connected. They send money here in billions of rupees, dollars. And they come from Goa, Gujarat, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, from Andhra Pradesh, from all over. Now these people, if they have a voting right, they could be able to exercise their vote and add something to our democratic system. Besides, see what happens now. If you follow the World Cup, most of the countries have people like OCIs playing. It's Algeria, Tunisia, all the African countries.
France as well, yes.
They have players who are born and settled in Europe, playing for them and doing so well. We have not been, India has failed even to qualify. And yet there is a Goan playing in the MLS, playing for Los Angeles Galaxy or whatever the team is. One Riley Dalgado from Asagam or Ukasai. There is another one playing in Qatar, playing for the top Qatar league. So, and there are many Indians playing in UK and all. If you give them these rights, they could represent our country in football, in sports. And subsequently, our sports could also get a boost. So instead of merely talking, Modi should give these OCIs additional rights. That's what I would feel. Forget about dual nationality right now.
Okay, a quick question again to Radha, and then I'll ask both Dr. Sawant and Dr. Aires to respond to what Radha said. But Radha, quick follow-up question to you. You said that the law is in a flux. But where exactly is the law in a flux? Because the moment you register your birth and marriage in Portugal, and you get that citizenship card, that is when the Rubicon is crossed. In that sense, but as soon as you do that, you acquire citizenship of Portugal and you cease to be an Indian citizen. Isn't that clear? So where is the flux?
My interpretation would be our constitution and our law, the Citizenship Act, both say that whoever voluntarily gives up the citizenship of this country, of India, loses Indian citizenship. Whoever voluntarily acquires the citizenship of another country loses Indian citizenship. That is what Article 9 said. Yes. Now, my contention has always been Goans who were born prior to 19th December 1961 are citizens of Portugal by operation of their law. Now, to acquire Portuguese citizenship, we will have to seek naturalization. None of us who have registered there seek naturalization. All that is done is our births, which are registered in Goa during the Portuguese time, are transcribed there. And transcription is not the same as registration. Transcription is copying. And there are Indians who are born abroad, even now. They come and transcribe their births in India. So
that may be the case, but there are many who travel to Portugal and register their marriages as well. So that is
they may register their marriages or they may register their births also. The problem is they are not voluntarily acquiring. The stress is on voluntarily acquiring. The Portuguese government recognizes you as a citizen already. Before the Article 9 came into force, we have been Portuguese citizens. So we are not voluntarily acquiring Portuguese citizenship. We are merely transcribing our births there. That is where there is a difference. That's why I was suggesting.
Dr. Samant, quick. Okay, Radha, complete. If you have not completed.
No, that is why I was suggesting there must be clarity on this issue.
Right.
Because we are already Portuguese citizens by operation of their law.
Right.
And because our law requires that we must voluntarily acquire. And since we are not voluntarily acquiring, merely copying our births there.
Right.
Does it amount to voluntarily acquiring? That's what.
Dr. Samant, a quick reaction to what Radharao said, and I'll ask Iris also to react to what Radharao said in response. For Dr. Samant first.
Registration, see, Estado da India म्हणतात पहिले birth registration before the Portuguese central registry. That was earlier. Now what they are doing is under this act itself is new. That is passed in 2010 or 11. Earlier, all those the cartel or whatever, all those proceedings are all gone now. They are so therefore you cannot say that you have not done it voluntarily and it's mere a transcription. The question is you have gone and chosen to register yourself. You have a choice. There is no question of. I mean, nobody is looking at you with suspicion or doubt. Now you have an option. Earlier, as I said, you have an option. You go and register. But then once you registered, then you will be hit by Indian Citizenship Act, which says that voluntarily, if you have gone and registered there, and then there is no, then it has to be presumed that you are relinquished. Then you are only entitled for purpose to get a OCI certificate. That is what. And whole thing. This I think you should. Whole thing. All these things have happened because Indian they retain Indian passports. That's the whole point, and that's the reason that clarification for MEA has come to say that a passport is a travel document. The whole confusion.
I'm just coming to that.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the crux of the matter. Now, otherwise, how do we? Okay, fine. Now let us see that we want to identify certain person as a citizen of this country. Now, in our country, there is no citizenship card. How do you recognize the Citizenship Act of 1952 tells us what are the criteria that you are born particularly. Then 87 to 2002 there was one criteria. Prior to that there was one criteria. One of the parents had to be this. Then you are birth by naturalization, a voluntary acquisition, or if certain part of, like for example in 71 war, 2-3 small villages of Pakistan have acceded to India. Now those have become Indian citizens. One or two Indian villages have gone to Pakistan. Now they have become Pakistani citizens. So when you acquire certain areas in dispute, they automatically become. So these are the criteria that has been similarly. Goa has also been annexed. So therefore, if Goa has also been annexed, then you have automatically become Indian citizens. Now, according to you, if you have registered your birth because Portugal considers you to be a citizen, that's a separate issue. Then you cannot take that they consider, therefore, and I have not done. This is a overt act on behalf of you of going and registering.
Iris, I'll come to you, Radha. Since Iris has been waiting patiently, let Iris react to this and then I'll come to you, Radha. Iris, please. Yes. Iris, please. Quick reaction to what Dr. Radharao and Advocate Samant have said.
See, Sujay, across the world, passport is considered as the proof of your citizenship, because unless you have the nationality of that country, you are not issued a passport. Now to say that the passport is not a proof of citizenship, this is a issue now that is being debated across the channels. I've been
shocked many people actually.
Listening over the last few days, senior advocates in the country, including Mr. Haris Salve and the rest, debating this issue. So somewhere we have to draw the line, because in terms of the Indian Citizenship Act, if we go by all that other criteria, it is going to be a long drawn issue. So I feel that things
also don't you think this,
because across the world, passport is a proof of your citizenship.
Correct, but don't you think the statement of Mr. Jaishankar has created more confusion than clarity, because it has thrown the whole thing into a state of.
I think this issue will be resolved, because with the senior legal luminaries in the country expressing their view, so I think this issue has to be laid to rest.
Yeah, Radha, back to you.
Yeah, so what happens, Mr. Joy? In advanced countries of the world, there is a citizenship card. All citizens have their cards. And that card is given to you after establishing that you are a citizen. But in countries that are not so advanced, there is no citizenship card. And whenever the government wants, they pick up someone and say, you are Pakistani, you are Portuguese, you are foreigner, and prove you are Indian national. This is totally absolute nonsense. The citizen has to be taken as a citizen, and it is for the state to show that you are not a citizen.
But it's
You can't
the other
just
way
ask
around
me-
that is happening now. Yes.
Yes. Now, what is happening? Our external affairs minister had no right to say that passport is not proof of citizenship. He is not the authority. The passport is issued by the Home Ministry, and it is the Home Ministry had to clarify. Now, problem is, it is true that the passport is not proof of citizenship, but the fact is, because you are a citizen, you are given a passport. In other words,
Exactly.
passport follows being a citizen. Now, under the Indian Passport Act, any citizen is entitled for an Indian passport. And once it is confirmed that you are a citizen, then only you are given a you are given a passport. Now, the whole issue is, under the Indian Passport Act, there is Section 20. Section 20 also empowers the government to give an Indian passport to non-citizens under exemplary circumstances, wherever required. So what does it show? It shows that if you got a passport under Section 20, then you are not an Indian citizen, because you are being given as a special consideration for reasons recorded in writing. Otherwise, if you have an Indian passport, it is given to you because you are a citizen. And no one can come and tell you it is only a passport document. Can a non-citizen get an Indian passport as a travel document? Answer is no. Therefore,
Right.
what the external affairs minister is talking is absolute rubbish. And it is shocking that man of his stature should be talking like that. He should have clearly said, you have a passport, it is a travel document, but it has been given to you because you are a citizen. By not saying so, he has created confusion.
Before we wind up the discussion, I'd like to enter into one more area with regard to Goa, its politics, and the whole issue of citizenship. Do you feel that I'll first go to Advocate Samant and others. Do you feel that, especially with elections coming in and the manner in which the whole demographics is sought to be controlled in a way, we are entering into an era where a lot of issues with regard to OCI, with regard to Portuguese citizenship, and so on and so forth, will be dealt with in a much tougher way and with an iron hand, rather than believing that some of the proposals that Radharao has put forward and others have put forward about dual citizenship, making it easier for people. Do you actually see that happening? Because under this current regime, do you see that happening, or the exact opposite happening, where it's going to become even tougher, and people who are in this nether zone or this gray area between Indian citizenship and Portuguese citizenship will actually have to face a further crackdown, rather than the path being smoothened for them to have a dual life, quote unquote? Advocate Samant first, and then Iris and Radha.
Yes.
Before we go,
I will answer that first, but I would also like to speak something about that Portuguese passport. I'm sorry, the passport as a travel document, because
Sure.
just see, as far as passport, you see a court may in some cases order paternity test just to check whose child it is. Now, why is it required to be done? On birth certificate, father's and mother's name is mentioned. The why paternity test is required? That is because birth certificate is the proof of birth, not of paternity. Similarly, a passport, of course, it is issued to a person who is an Indian citizen, unless it is issued under Section 20. But the passport is a travel document issued by a passport officer. It is not a proof of a citizenship, but certainly it's a document that has been issued to a citizen. But it is quite possible that person, by manipulating certain documents, may take a passport. But if you say passport is a conclusive proof of a citizenship, then what happens is it will be difficult for that person, to prove that he is not somebody who has
But
manipulated.
then what is the
also
conclusive proof?
will be
Because
will
Samant, then
pass
what
off
is
as
the
a
conclusive
citizen.
proof?
That's why it is necessary to make that distinction. Now, about transition, whether you see whether this is present dispensation.
Yeah, please carry on.
Which is the change that is happening in terms of that world is becoming one small village. The people are integrating worldwide. People, for various reasons, need to go and stay at other countries for a long time, whether for employment or not. These, no country, no government, no amount.
Okay, I think there's a slight audio issue with
or
you.
too fast is something to say, but Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe because of the net, but
No,
I
carry on.
think
Carry on. You're okay now.
whether it is this government, last government, or the next government, I see dual citizenship happening very soon, and it will happen seamlessly without any problem.
Okay,
Hopefully, it will happen without any problem.
Iris, your last words on the subject. Under the current dispensation, do you feel these problems increasing rather than decreasing?
I feel the government, both at the state and the center, have to work together to bring this issue once and for all to a conclusion. And the only way I feel the central government should step in and expedite the process of dual nationality so that this issue is laid to rest.
Rather, finally, of course, I hope the government looks into your dual nationality issue, and of course, your very radical thought that OCI should be given voting rights. I don't know how that's going to happen, but yeah, it's a good thought. But finally, do you really feel that issues with regard to Portuguese citizenship, registration of births, they are being used more as political tools rather than actual legal tools?
You see, the problem is they are political tools because in Goa, it is essentially one community, mostly, that uses that tool, that facility. And that community is not known to be favorable to the government in power. But likewise, there are people in Daman and Gujarat, in Diu, who are totally with the present government, who are also beneficiaries and who are using that law. Taking that into account and taking various other factors, I would expect sooner or later full-fledged dual citizenship. But I would just like to counter what my colleague has said. That, see what happens, he is talking of birth certificate is not proof of paternity. See, birth certificate is taken as proof of paternity until the contrary is proved. That is the law.
No.
But someone has to challenge it. Either the mother or father may challenge it. Then only question of paternity test would come. Same thing holds for a passport. The Indian passport issued to you is valid and it is given to you because you are an Indian citizen. So long as that passport is not set aside, is not quashed or invalidated, you are an Indian citizen. One can't say otherwise. That is what I would say.
Right. Dr. Samant, any reaction to that, or can I conclude?
No. You see, birth certificate is not a proof of paternity. Neither there is any of this. But anyway, that is not our this. The question is law as it stands today. As far as passport is concerned, it's only a travel document, and this is the right time where government comes with a national identity card or a national citizenship card. So that will put rest into constituency. You take various factors, maybe birth certificate, maybe election card, a combination of everything. And you see another problem with the passport is you see only 2 to 5% people will have a passport. And if you consider passport to be a only, or rather that's the only deciding factor to be a citizenship, then you are keeping around 90% of the people out of the system. Now we cannot afford to do that. Now I am about the claim of Radha that it is only issued to a citizen, and unless it is issued under Section 20, he is absolutely right about it. That first criteria for issuing a passport is that you have to be a citizen of this country, but it's not vice versa.
Okay. I think
just one final sentence.
Sure.
The Indian passport is a travel document.
Right.
Issued to a citizen. Simple as that.
Yes. Yeah, he's right. He's right.
Okay, before I conclude, I think let's give our guest from London the last word before we conclude, because
regarding the point by Advocate Radharao, that it is mostly the people of one community while traveling through Portugal and through UK, I find that there are a lot of our Goan brothers and sisters from the Hindu community, from the Muslim community, who are here with a Portuguese passport. So it is we feel that it is people of just one community, which is not the ground reality.
Right. So what Iris says is that this is a very secular phenomenon and not restricted to only one religion. Okay, on this light note, I thank all the panelists, and I think we should end with one note, in the sense that when Goans acquire Portuguese citizenship, the children do, people are studying, working, making their lives better, because their their home country perhaps does not actually facilitate jobs and employment. And also there is a great economy running because of remittances coming from abroad. There are people all over earning and keeping families going and home fires burning. So we need to look at these things holistically, with the proviso that if you want to take that route, do it honestly, follow the law, and ensure that you do it. Don't put your feet in both boats, because that is where the problem lies. And I think dual citizenship is a very radical and a very timely suggestion, with all the panelists have agreed. And this whole issue of the passport not being the only document of citizenship, of course, that has been severely challenged by all legal luminaries, including the panelists here, and that's the way it should be. We hope these things get completely controlled so that India truly gets onto the pathway of globalization in a manner that is just and equitable to everybody. Thank you very much, and we conclude this.
Thank you.
Thank you.